Hey everybody, this is Rebel Builder back with another TIE Fighter MOC video. This time it is the Heavy TIE Fighter, also known as the TIE Brute, featured in Solo, a Star Wars story. This is the big TIE Fighter that was chasing the Millennium Falcon through the Kessel Run. I think this is a common theme through most of the projects I take on, but this was another one of those ships that I underestimated. I initially thought this would be an easy build. You know, you take one of the TIE Fighters, that recent TIE Fighter set, and just kind of widen it out, put this section in here. You know, this is some sort of gunnery pod. It's got these two cannons above and below, and the ship turned out to be a lot more than that. So I did get the most recent TIE Fighter set, and a lot of those parts went into this, mainly for the solar panels on the side. They're not exactly the same as they are in that set. They are actually the same design that I used in my normal TIE Fighter, which is based off the First Order Special Forces TIE Fighter. Now I'll show you some of the concept art I used here in a minute, but aesthetically this one had to be just bulkier and chunkier than the normal TIE Fighter. So I was trying to figure out ways to bulk up the cockpit section here, make it tougher, make it beefier looking, and that was a fine line to walk between making it too big. You know, I didn't want this giant cockpit that was the size of the UCS TIE Fighter. So it was literally just making steps layer by, plate by plate really, to kind of achieve the look. And, I wanted to base it off my TIE Fighter. A lot of the designs here around this section here, with these wedge pieces here. But really, I came up with a lot of different designs as far as, directions and building these slopes here. Really, this one turned out to be an exercise in Lego geometry and getting plates and bricks and brackets to all kind of line up. So what I have here, I have this 2 by 4 by, what is that, 4 tall slope. So these are going sideways on either side and also on the bottom. So I have some brackets here and some headlight bricks here. You can see I have this little grill tile there. So getting all that stuff to work out and line up so it actually fit into the side of, these plates here on the TIE Fighter solar panel, it actually just gives it even more strength. So there was a lot of going back and forth as far as coming up with that design, and proved to be quite a challenge, but that's actually working out those geometries is one of the things I'm most proud of with this build. And then of course we have the gun pod here on the left side of the ship, and this one was this section was a challenge too. I went a couple of different directions. You can see generally I made it kind of the circular direction going front and back. I have 1 by 4 round slope, 1 by 4 round slope here. And then for these sections here, I kind of like what I did here. These are 2 by 1 round slopes. You can kind of see them, but they have a hinge underneath. So I was able to kind of put those in there and angle them to give it more of a round look. Now, initially the first kind of design I had everything going this way, and it just created a lot of problems and didn't look quite right. So I changed directions on the build and came up with this. You can see I've got the little 2 by 1 transparent red tile there. Those glowing, red lights or something that are really prominent in that Kessel Run scene. And here's kind of a close-up look of the cannons. Pretty much the same on the top and bottom. Those kind of things are fun for me to do, just the greebles, the little details where you're looking through your collection trying to come up with all these obscure parts that, really aren't meant to be used for a cannon on a TIE Fighter. These are wheel pieces here, and I got a gear. Happy with how these things turned out. I think they really give it a good look. You'll also notice that I'm using the transparent red First Order TIE Fighter cockpit here. Now, whether that's actually correct or not, I'm not sure. But in that scene where we see these TIE Fighters, it's dark, it's kind of cloudy and smoky, but the cockpit and the gun section here are definitely glowing red. That's probably from some internal light system that's red on the inside. But you know, I wanted to mix it up too, but I think the transparent red really kind of gives it a little bit different look than my other TIE fighters. And again, I like how that turned out. And also, as far as coming up with some different looks or designs for TIE fighters, I wanted to come up with some different detail for this front section here. This is a Technic piece here on a hinge, and then using a Flickr missile there. I did that all the way around, and it's kind of a cool detail. It's kind of a challenge to come up with different details in such a limited space here. I do wish these black pieces came in dark bluish gray. I think that would kind of give me a better look. And then using the 2x1 grill slope here, you know, that's a different look than my other TIE fighters. Again, just trying to give it a bulkier, different kind of look. Here is a look at the side of the solar panels here. You know, this is going to be the exact same design that I used on my normal TIE fighter. Again, based off the First Order Special Forces TIE fighter set. A little bit different design on the outside than what they did on the latest TIE fighter set. But, you know, this is kind of a case where if it's not broke, don't fix it. So I just used what I'd used before. And here's a look at the back of the ship. The gun pod here, pretty similar to the front. I have a 2x2 tile here, and then I'm using hinges to give me a different angle on these 2x1 round slopes. I like how that turned out. You know, that was a difficult look to achieve. You know, it's one of those conditions, you know, like round cockpits that you can't really achieve 100% in Lego, but you know, this was where I landed. You can see the details just like the front here, using these Flickr missiles and hinges. I kind of like that. And here for the back, I went with the look of the TIE Strikers set. You know, this Scala dish here in dark bluish gray, just a 2x2 round black dish there. Just again, trying to give it a different look, and then, you know, the same kind of engines here that I've used in previous builds. But if you look closely, you can see the shaping of the cockpit here is different from what I've done in the past, but similar. Again, just trying to add little layer by layer to give it the look that I was trying to achieve. But you can see I use these new pieces, these 2x1 slopes, you know, where it's kind of got the tile on the top. I used quite a bit of those. You know, those came with the recent TIE Fighter set. And you can see, like, I'm using them here on this section, and they're built out sideways. Playing with those kind of new pieces really was fun. Gave me an excuse to practice with a new piece. But it was kind of crucial in some of these conditions or locations to give me that look. You know, I like this is bulkier up here, but everything sticks out a little further from the hatch up here. So having that tile look across the top was kind of important. But again, just, you know, this one took a long time to build because I just kept working it almost like a piece of clay till I got it to the point where I was happy with it. We can take a look at the cockpit on this one. It's a little tighter in here than previous TIE Fighters, so I'm going to pull off kind of this couple of pieces here so you can see what's going on in here. I've got my TIE Fighter pilot, the control yoke here, and some of these decorated tiles, you know, that come on a lot of Imperial Star Wars sets. Lots of transparent red here and here, you know, just trying to add to that glow look. But also another thing I want to add is I talked about this when I talked about the latest TIE Fighter set and how much Technic that they used inside to make the ship stronger and durable. Well, I learned from that on this one. So you can see, I'm going to pull the pilot out here. I've got all these Technic beams here. So these actually run kind of the whole length of the build. And so everything is really strong. If we pick this up, like, this ship is pretty strong for something that's so big and it has lots of detail hanging off. But that was kind of a good exercise learning from that set, you know, trying to incorporate that into what I build. Now this build was kind of a challenge too, in the sense that there wasn't a lot of information or data to really go off of. You know, this is a printout from the trailer that we saw, ended up being in the movie. Again, you know, the glowing red cockpit here and here. So that gave me a lot of the look that I was able to go off of. And then this was another shot from the trailer, just kind of showing the rear. That's going to be kind of hard to see in the video because it's a really dark print. But the kind of the biggest one was this piece, and I think this was on the StarWars.com website. You know, this gave me some great detail showing kind of, you know, if you assume that the size of the cockpit is the same as TIE fighters, you know, it kind of gives you an idea of how much bulkier this ship should be. But my challenge was coming up with the right proportions. I always talk about I want things to be the right proportion, you know, where you may not get the details right, but you can get, you know, the shape and scale and proportion right. So what I did is I did this. I drew this up in CAD, and I don't have the actual image here, but I took another one of those shots from the movie where the ship first comes out of the Star Destroyer, and it's a good front-on view. So I laid that on, and I was just trying to get some basic shapes, you know, size of the cockpit, size of the solar panels, but most importantly, the width, because I didn't really have a good feel. So I drew this up based on that image, sized these sections here. I think this works out to be 9 inches tall, which is the same size as the First Order TIE Fighter. So that gave me my proportions. So when I take the ship and kind of line it up on here, you know, that's kind of how I achieved a lot of it. And you can even see, like, maybe the cockpit should have been a little bigger, but, you know, it was kind of a balance. But I was really going for, you know, the width between the solar panels and the gun pod and the cockpit and the other solar panel. So that's going to do it for the Heavy TIE Fighter, aka TIE Brute. That seems to be the name most people like to call it. But I'd appreciate a thumbs up on this video if you liked what you saw. And please leave me a comment. I love chatting with you guys. I love kind of getting your feedback. And that kind of lets me know how I'm doing, and I'm always looking for that. And if you're new to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. I've got some great other MOCs on my channel you can go check out, and you don't want to miss out what I have coming in the future. So again, thanks for watching, everybody. I'll be back soon.